Well, good afternoon. How's everybody doing? I'm feeling a bit better, as you can tell. Whew. It was mainly the antibiotics. So when you have a flare-up of diverticulitis, and this is one I had for the first time in 12 years, and I know I shouldn't have been eating too much bread, not too much dairy. It's different for everybody, but that's my Achilles heel. But I am working my way back. I'm getting more energy. The antibiotics are beginning to flush out of my body, and it was a heavy dose. But in the meantime, I was sleeping a lot, and I get some of my best breakthroughs when I'm sleeping, as it is for a lot of people. The dream state is a very powerful time for letting your subconscious mind analyze things. And what a horrific answer I got. So, what is the plan? I was listening to Michael Yon this morning, and he was talking about Bibi and how Bibi's gone, and nobody can tell where he is, and they're clearly using AI in order to make it look like he's still around. The question is he dead or is he hiding? So let's answer that later, because you'll probably be able to answer for yourself. But I'd like to ask you a question, because if you've been listening to a lot of rabbis who are talking about the end of days and the apocalypse and what's supposed to be the result of that end of days, right? Which is, what is it? 90% of the world's population will be wiped out, and of the 10% that will be left, the majority will be Jews. But we're going to say it's specifically Zionists as we're going right now, because you'll start to understand the difference between the practicing Jews who believe that God, Yahweh, will bring the apocalypse as compared to what the Zionists believe, which is they will make it happen. And you're saying, make it happen? What are you talking about? I thought Zionism was all about the idea of getting the Jewish people into the sanctuary of the Holy Land. Well, first you have to be Semites. You have to be the actual Israelites for that to be true, right? And we know that these people who took over the land and stole it from the Palestinians, after the Palestinians were nice enough to invite these refugees after World War II to come. Actually, it wasn't before. After World War II, it was actually before. With the help of the UK and the Nazis. Remember, the Nazis and the anti-Semites, the anti-Jewish of the UK were the ones who were setting this all up. Right? It wasn't for the Jewish benefit. It was to get rid of all the Jews, or the converted Jews, the Ashkenazi Jews. Because, as we know from history and studying history, that the real Semites, the real Israelites, and their descendants have been living in Palestine forever. Those people never left. That the people who came over and invaded Palestine and took it over at the invite of the Palestinians are actually Khazars. And who are the Khazar people? The Khazar people were a nomadic people who were known by all their neighbors around as pagans who prayed to Baal, who were raiders and murderers and thieves. That's what these people were in their origins. And then they got converted to Judaism by King Bulan. Well, think about a nifty way if you want to be able to trade with both sides and not be killed by either the Muslims or the Christians, right? So, that's the people who took over Palestine. And we know that because the people who are willing to stay and fight for their country are the Palestinians. And who are the people who are running and have no interest in fighting for their people? It's the Israelis. If you've been paying attention to how the airport is being evacuated, by people trying to get on any flight they can to get out of that country, going to wherever they go, like a bunch of rats. While we're left holding the bag. And why is that? Why are we, Americans, left holding the bag? What was the purpose of using America, the United States, to get involved in this freaking screwed up, suicidal attack on Iran? The whole purpose of that is to destroy the United States. Now, why would you want to destroy the very country that has been your greatest ally, who has fought every war for you since 1947? Well, is it 1947? Well, politically, and in the United Nations, thanks to frickin' Truman, who then backtracked. Isn't it funny? You get all these presidents like Woodrow Wilson, you get President Truman, and they're always backtracking like, God, I wish I didn't do that. Like, Wilson later cried because he was so sorry that he brought in the Federal Reserve, right? Yeah, which was the downfall, the beginning of the downfall of the United States. Or that Truman said, don't trust any Jews. That they're always using people in his own letters. Think about that. Why is it they always get over it? Are we going to hear from Trump saying later, God, I shouldn't have listened to Bibi? Where's Bibi? Still trying to find that one. Is he dead? Or is he in Patagonia? Because, that's where Zionists and Nazis go, right? They go to South America. Especially the ones who are mass murderers. So first goes Hitler, then goes Bibi. Following the same sneak away. If there's actually a society and a civilization left after what happens and what's coming that I'm going to be telling you about. Will we have the opportunity to find out that Adolf Hitler was living in Argentina until he died in the 60s? Yeah, remember I told you, bad people don't necessarily get what they deserve. So why would you destroy your greatest ally, the United States? Come on now. I'm asking you a question. Put it down there in the comments. This is an interactive class on how to frickin' destroy the world. Because that's the objective. If you are the greatest empire at that time, if you are the empire at that time, do you still want that empire to be surviving when you are setting everything up to be the survivors after the apocalypse? What are we talking about here? Well, I've listened to at least 7 rabbis telling me how it's going to go. That is, they're going to get the Christians killing the Muslims and the Muslims killing the Christians. And while we've been killing each other and then doing the final straw, which is to nuke Iran and then bring in the Russians and bring in the Chinese, which I don't think the Chinese are going to be stupid enough to get into it. They'll just be battening down their hatches. And all we got to trade is probably about 10 nukes. And that's just perfect. That's just enough to do what I see is going to happen. 5 to 10 nukes is going to lift up enough material to create the nuclear winter that these people are after. Because you're not going to have a full-on war. Either it's because we won't have the wherewithal to keep on going with each other, or it'll just stop. But it'll be too late, because the material will be lifted up into the air, and that's the objective. It's because once you lift that air, which would be considered... Have you ever noticed? See, this is the thing. This evil cabal, this death cult, they're not committing a sin according to their religion, which is that if they let you know about what's coming, remember I said this before? You're culpable. That means you're complicit. You are complicit in their actions. You're letting it ride. In the same way that we have let all the people who have committed all these evil acts against young children get away with things in the Epstein files. They're continuing to walk. They should either be hanging from a rope or in prison for life. Personally, I think they'd just be hanging from a rope, because I don't want to pay my taxes paying for all these people to stay in prison and stay alive. Do you? And I've already told you my view on federal taxes, because they are not here to help the American people. They're here solely to imprison American people and to thin us out. And that's what it is. It's a great thinning. So according to the rabbis, we're killing each other, and then we have the big apocalypse, and that takes out 90% of the world population. Not 90% of the United States, not 90% of the West, 90% of the world population. How can you do that and still have a bit of control over it? Well, if we pay attention to what Peter Thiel's done, which it's very interesting. Why would somebody go out of his way to go get citizenship in New Zealand? Why would somebody spend that amount of money not only getting the citizenship in New Zealand and become a Kiwi so that he can stay there as long as he wants to get ready for what's coming? Why can he do that? Or why would he do that? And why would he put all this money into this bunker estate in New Zealand? Why would he do that? Because he knows what's up. He knows what the plan is. Now, will the plan succeed? I can't say that. Okay? But I don't hear anybody talking about this plan specifically. What I see is game theory. So it's game theory from John. Okay? Game theory, I've been studying up on it. Not from a strategic point of view, but from the origins, which was in economics. Because remember, this is all about economics. If you're understanding the economics, you're understanding how everything else is going. Where's all the money going? The money's going into the southern areas. I told you this is going to be a wealth transfer. They're going to be moving more and more of this wealth into the southern hemisphere. It's going to be moved out of the northern hemisphere. The reason is because, quote, the 10% who's going to survive is going to be in the southern hemisphere. For those of you who are going to be in the southern hemisphere or think you're safe, unless you have an army that's equal to theirs, you're going to be their slaves. Remember, this is the prophecy. The prophecy is the 10% that survive. The majority are going to be the chosen, and the others are going to be the goyim, which means you are cattle, which means if they need to eat somebody, they will eat you. Just like we talked about in the Epstein files when they were talking about beef jerky. That's what they are preparing. That's what they are practicing. Because remember, you don't just jump into something. You get varying degrees of compliance, varying degrees of acceptance. That's how all this works. They give you a little hint. They get you conditioned to this. You get okay with things. What they're doing now is they're making it okay that you let them get away with what they're getting away with. They've already got away with molesting children. They've got away with murdering children. They've got away with eating babies. You think that's BS? No, it's real. Look at what they've been talking about. Look at the way they've been talking about it. It's real. Why would they be doing it? The research is there. They follow up on the research. The studies have been done. We understand the effects of adrenochrome. I talked with you about what I had my experience when I was eating dog in Korea and how they kill the dog in order to get the adrenaline going. Okay, well, adrenochrome, word roots. Where do they come from? Follow it back. And the high that I felt, this is the high that they're feeling. But if you've got someone who's actually constantly getting this chemical composition in their body repeatedly, what does it do? Is this the fountain of youth that they think it is? Is this them turning into vampires? But if you've got that mentality about life, and that you think that anybody who is not the chosen, and this is the thing about being chosen, when you're chosen, you think of everybody else as lower than you. That was the whole thing about the creation of the United States, was not to have that. But now we've gone around 250 years. So these guys, how are they going to survive? And think about this. This is very important to really understand. Why? Why did they hit the countries in the southern hemisphere most heavily with the required mosquito bite? Required. Australia. If you didn't get it, you went into a concentration camp. New Zealand, the worst. Hammered. I have good friends in New Zealand. I have good friends in Australia. I'm sad to... This is horrible. Because the research has come out, and the latest that I got was like, a week ago, 2 weeks ago, is stating that every one of the mosquito bites, has done nothing of benefit and have, in contrast, has actually caused horrible effects. And in the long run will have disastrous effects on people's health. My mother got it. I repeatedly told her in the beginning, do not get it. But another family member told her to get it, and she got it. And now she's suffering the effects. Everybody who has taken it. Do you think I could continue to work and have to do the duties of a 20-year-old at the age of 62 if I had gotten it? And I don't do all these other things to improve my strength to be able to do things that I can do. I hunt. I fish. I do it as a subsistence hunter and fisherman. That's a lot more work than just going out and playing and having a hobby of fishing and having a hobby of hunting. When you hunt with the idea that you keep your skills fine-tuned, and when you hunt, you're actually putting into your full food framework and resources, everything is based off the land. That's a lot of work. It keeps you healthy, but it also requires a lot of energy. I've got friends who have got the turbo cancer. Like, they were in better shape than I was. And totally wiped out. On chemo, radiation therapy, all this crap. No history whatsoever. People getting types of cancers that it's like 1 in 100,000. We've got departments in hospitals that have cancer patients coming in that are just floored by the numbers. Three times as many patients coming in. This was the plan. The plan was thinning. This is why they've done everything that they've been doing. So the ones who knew got salt water. They got Ricker's solution. The ones who got the real one got the real one. And I looked at the graph 2 days ago, and there's no difference on how many boosters you got. The graph in terms of impact, disastrous impact on your health, is constant. It's the same. There's no deviation in it. So the first one was the one. So the first one that you got, if you got it, I'm praying for you. People are saying there are ways to deal with it. I hope you're tracking it down, trying to find out what you can to try and repair the damage that's being done and has been done. Remember who, what, where, when, how, why. I told you, in journalism, it's used in the past. In analysis, intel analysis, it's used in the present and in the future. That's how you can forecast things that are coming. That's how I'm coming to you with the stuff that I've got. Man. And if you got anybody who's going to tell, I'd love to hear somebody else that said the same thing, because I haven't got it. Oh, based on that way. Please, if you like what I'm telling you, and you think that I'm squared away in the information I'm giving you, please like and subscribe right now. You know, maybe some of your friends would like to know this information. Ooh, it might help them. And hopefully this information will be helping you, because you might have to move. So, we're going to call on my experiences and my knowledge as a pilot, you know, because the pilots are the sailors of the sky. Have you ever wondered what the name Lufthansa means? It means sailors of the air. Lufthansa. Yes, I'll be coming with my language rapid course. But right now, it's more important for you to get squared away on what is happening right now. Because BB, I think he's already in the place where he's ready and waiting for this to happen. Which is a lot of dirt is going to be lifted up into the atmosphere. And when that atmosphere, so let's understand how material gets locked up into the sky. So, For those of you who went through your PPL, this was a damn good book. It's still used, I guess. But here's my old book. See that right there? That's Global Wind Patterns. Now you'll notice how the winds swirl, and they swirl between the equator and the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. So that belt, I foresee what's going to happen is that belt between the Tropic of Capricorn and the Tropic of Cancer is where the material is going to stay in its thickest amount. Okay, and it's in its most dense, that will create the nuclear winter. What is that going to cause? People are going to be starving. People will not be able to grow food. Animals will disappear. You won't be able to feed your cattle and your poultry if you did have those. For the same reasons that the game and everything is going to either migrate north or they're going to migrate south. Which, anything above, God, what I see is anything south of the Canadian border, Canadian-U.S. border, and anything north of, let me see on Google. Yeah, so if you have a nuke, let's look at nukes. So you have the nukes blow up here in Tehran, and then you have another one blow up over there in Israel. Yeah. There we go. You get that happening, and you've got some. Yeah, there we go. Where is it? There you go. So, Saudi. Yeah, there we go. Let's bring this closer together. So, you got Israel over here. You got Iran over here. So you nuke. They're all in the. Have you noticed they're all in the same latitude? Pretty damn close, right? So here, and Tehran. So Tehran is just north of 35 degrees north, and Israel is just above, 30 degrees, 31 degrees north. Is that right? No, 30 degrees. Yeah, 31 degrees north. 32 degrees north. So that latitude, that's just north of the Tropic of Cancer. Okay, the Tropic of Cancer, right here. This is the equator. This is the Tropic of Capricorn. So remember, they're going to be swirling. So down here, the currents swirl counterclockwise. Up here, they'll be swirling clockwise. You have an explosion, it'll swirl it down. And you have how the world is spinning. So it's going to move it into this area. This band is going to be the band, north and south. The question is how much is going to be hammered. So if you take the Tropic of Cancer over, what do you see? Patagonia. And where have the IDF been burning fires and trying to take land? So they're all moving to Patagonia because they're all moving out of Tel Aviv. They're going to go hang out. You know, the people don't really get this or who can't believe this is happening, because even Israelis can't believe this is happening or that this was the plan. And up here in Alaska, will it be cold? Yeah, it'll be cold. But the thing about it is that we're going to get more sunlight. We're going to get more sunlight up in Alaska. We're going to get more sunlight up in northern Canada. Okay? So think about that. And the idea that they basically force all the Australians and all of the Kiwis to get the jab, to get the mosquito bite. So you got a bunch of people, and the death rates are increasing through all the effects of it, which is, my understanding is It was designed to find out whatever was genetically in your genetic makeup as a weakness. So let's say you have family history of diabetes, or you have a family history of cancers, and that it would ramp it up and speed it up. So you may have gotten away because you took care of yourself, etc., and you didn't get it. But just because you have that string in there, it jumps on that and it ramps it up. And that's why you get these turbos. And that's why you see these people getting these things. And I'm like, oh my God, how in the world is that happening? Because it's part of the plan. But now here's the most important thing about that. They could wait, but in the meantime, everybody could fully get squared away and understand, and could be totally understanding of what they are doing and why they are doing it. They can't wait for that. So the next thing that they have to do is they have to have a nuclear war. Or they have to have a volcano blow up. Because remember, there are two cataclysmic extinction level events, ELEs, right? Oh, go watch a movie. That's what they call it in the movie. Yeah. Remember? They're making these movies. Remember before... Oh my God, what was the movie just before with Dustin Hoffman? Come on, you can tell me. I'm not going to look it up. The one with Dustin Hoffman and what's his name? Where they were in the army. And it was a biostrain that was released into Northern California. And suddenly, with the monkey. And the monkey went out and bit people. And then boom, it just started spreading like crazy. Yeah. So remember... They have to tell you what they're going to do. How many nuclear winter movies have we seen? And it's not just a nuclear winter. They've also been making the movies about just Earth coming up into the atmosphere and turning it into a giant nuclear winter around the world. But not a nuclear winter, just a winter. And then you've got an ice age you'll get an ice age. Damn. So you have to be ready to deal with what that really means. And it'll be in the areas that do not get the most sun. From what I'm looking at, it's going to swirl and keep around. Because remember, it doesn't just stay up there forever. It swirls. And that's why you have areas that get more sun and some areas that don't get sun. But then that stuff just continues to fall down onto the ground. And there's not enough material to collect atmospheric cover and cloud cover that causes this winter. And what have they been preparing for us? Remember, it's the bait and switch. Get you all focused on global warming while they're not even waiting for the solar storm. So it's the multiple whammy. You've got the mosquito bite. You've got the nuclear element. You've got the solar element already happening. We've had less contrails up here in Alaska than you folks down in the lower 48 have. And where I've been seeing most of it? Most of it's been in the southern and southeast of the United States. Why? Because they're trying to hit you with it and control population, but more importantly, control land. It's about controlling land and thinning the people out on that land. And that thinning out is either financially, by wiping you out because you don't have a home because it just got washed away, but also physically with however many people were in there and got swept away. But remember, in the apocalypse, their apocalypse, and the Judeo-Christians, Zionists, the Christian Zionists who believe in this, who are also psychos, because they're wanting this to happen. They're wanting this to happen. That's the difference. A God-fearing, good person who prays to God, who follows the Bible, is not praying for this to happen, knows this could happen. And if it does happen, it is the will of God. But what they're doing, and this is the reason it's a Zionist thing, they do not wait. In the same way they're pushing the bullshit about going over and taking back the Holy Land for the chosen people was total BS. And why it was bankrolled by the Rothschilds, why it was signed off and aided by Lord Balfour and all the anti-Semites. It was to get them in there to create chaos in there. God, this is some evil stuff. A lot of you can't comprehend this. I know, I get it. Because you have to go into this mindset. These are evil people. Remember I told you about training in the old ways. Hunter, warrior, healer. You have to hunt. You learn how to hunt. Whether it's hunting animals, four-leggeds, or two-leggeds. And then you got to learn how to fight. And most people now don't know how to fight, much less know how to hunt. The only survivors of this are going to be people who know how to hunt and people who know how to be warriors. You're going to have to get squared away. You're going to have to learn how to use things like this. This. Do you know the difference between this and this? Do you know the difference? Can you use this versus this? If you don't, or this, yeah, what's the difference? What's the range of this one? What's the range of this one? What type of environment can use that one or this one? What is this really good for? You can answer below if you know. And if you know, good on you. Because you might just make it. If you don't know how to use those, go get squared away. Go pay someone to teach you how to use them properly. Because you're going to need to know how to use one. I won't say you don't necessarily have to have one. Because when something like I see coming, don't worry about it. They'll be issuing you one. In the neighborhood. Depends on which side you're on. Because that's the whole idea of getting the winter going. What was the most strife in the world? If we look at history, you might notice it's when the weather sucked. When the weather sucked, the crops are bad. When the crops are bad, the people are hungry. When the people are hungry, they go steal. And they go take. And they go raid. And you're going to have to be ready for these people. Because whatever you do have, they're going to be coming to take. And it's not an idea that you actually have something like when they started the Civil War. Because remember, it's the same people. Every war in the United States since the American War of Secession, I won't even call it a Civil War. The real Civil War was the British against the monarchy, and specifically, actually, against the Bank of England. Because remember, that was a debt default. They were going to totally enslave us to a point we would never get out from under it. And guess what they're doing now? And people are just following along. Because you got credit cards. Every credit card that you use constantly is putting you under enslavement, in debt to them. But this is the most horrific part. Every time you use a Federal Reserve note, which is the paper money that you carry in your wallet or in your purse, that's not money. That's a debt note. That's an enslavement note. You're paying off the debt that the United States corporation owes to the City of London. And remember what I told you? I think that basically the Third Temple is the City of London. It's inside the City of London. If you look at the architecture. This is some wicked stuff here now. Whew. It's wild, but work all the things together. Thinning out the Australian population. Thinning out the Kiwis. Thinning out South America. Where did they have the heaviest effect? Yeah, the United States. And why would you take out the United States? You take out the United States because if the United States is caught up in a major war of chaos, it's not a civil war, it'll just be a war of chaos. There won't be any sides. It'll just be people, the have-nots, taking from the haves. That's it. And all the ones with the most have, they won't even be in this country anymore. They'll be in New Zealand. They'll be in Australia. They'll be in Patagonia. They'll be hanging out down there. They might even be in South Africa. Maybe. But I think most of them, if it's 10% of the population, and they've wiped out the other 90% of the population, they're going to be in Patagonia with all their Goyim slaves. Yeah. Think about that. This is the big plan. This is Even though this is a biblical description, the apocalypse, right? The difference between the true religious practitioners of Christianity and Judaism is it's up to God. It's up to Yahweh to bring this to fore, to bring this into reality. It's not up to people to do it. The difference between the Zionists and everybody else, and that's why it's a death cult. And that's why they pray. They don't pray to God. They pray to Baal. They pray to Baal. That's why they can do these things. That's why Epstein could do these horrible things to children, to people. Beef jerky. Repeat that in your mind. Beef jerky. How disgusting. That ramps me up for war. Because I'm not going to be long pig for somebody. Do you want to be long pig? You don't want to be long pig. Yeah, go Google that. If you don't know what long pig is. Captain Cook ended up with long pig in Hawaii. Wow. So, hey, we're at 35 minutes, 36 minutes. Yeah, this will be a short one. Because all it is just to tell you, wow, get ready. I'm happy I'm in Alaska. I'm happy I planned. I started 12 years ago, like heavily. Like getting the land, working the land, making the land sufficient so if the rest of the world just drops off, we're good. And if anybody tries to take it or try to take it away from us, we're definitely good. It's because of my skills. You should have skills. It's because of my background. Combat experience is very good for you. You got to deal with the issue psychologically. But I'd rather have them. It's worth the cost. That's why I don't feel bad about it. That's why I don't have to keep on crying about poor little me, like this whole generation is now because they watch too much Rambo. Doesn't that kind of like blow you away that the movie that does so well is to describe Vietnam vets is the one that makes the Vietnam vet seem like a little crybaby who's all fucked up in the head? Well, let me tell you, I was raised with the Vietnam vets, which was the 80% who didn't act like that. Those are the ones who got on with their lives. They got squared away. There were people that worked with my dad in Singapore. It's like that chopper pilot, former chopper pilot. He was working in sales with my dad at Kohler. And being blown away that we didn't know he was a Vietnam vet, which is the thing. A lot of Vietnam vets who came back from Vietnam didn't want to let you know that they were in Vietnam. As a matter of fact, this is well documented. A lot of Vietnam vets didn't even put it on their resume that they were even in the military. They just went with their college education and up on the GI Bill when they came back. But they got squared away. That's actually 80% of Vietnam vets. That's why it pisses me off when people say, oh God, I'm just like, oh, I'm so fucked up. You ain't fucked up. You watch too many fucking movies. Get yourself squared away. If I seem harsh, guess what my name was when I was a rehab counselor? They called me Barbara. She was Navajo. She is Navajo. Yeah, she might still be alive. I know that Helen Wakazu is gone. Rest in peace. She was Navajo too. But she came to me one day. She said, you know what they call you? All the clients. They said, they call you the Hammer. They call me the Hammer because I fucking would let them get away with all their bullshit. You know, like Sean Ryan's bullshit. Of how fucked up he is because of all the things that he went through. I've gone through more combat. I know for a fact I've gone through more combat experience than Sean Ryan. I know for a fact. Just by the way he carries himself, by the way he talks about things, by the events that he's been in. I know for a fact. And from people who worked with him, I know for a fact. So, get squared away. Don't fall into despair. Think like someone who is going to get past this. How are you going to get through this? Trust your gut instinct. See, I wanted to move to Montana, and I had the Montana to have I had the money to have a beautiful spread in Montana, which right now I couldn't even imagine having a spread that big. I mean, the acreage that we have right now is just, it's more than enough. It's more than enough. You don't have to have a 3,000 acre spread with cattle all over the place to get through this. As a matter of fact, that's going to be an issue. Because anytime that you need that many people to support your project and your program, You won't be able to do it. There won't be enough people to do it. And if they are, they're probably going to try and take it away from you. That's one of the things that these guys like Thiel and Elon Musk and Ellison. Oh, by the way, Ellison's got his public getaway in Hawaii. Well, Hawaii is going to turn into a freaking snow-covered freaking Hawaiian freaking ice cream cone, snow cone. That's what it's going to be. Yeah, for a couple of years. You think he's going to go there? No, he's got something down in Australia. He's got something down in New Zealand. Very likely he's part of that thing with Patagonia, too. When you have that kind of wealth and you're keyed on what the project is. Remember, they are bringing this out. They're using the Bible. This is what's so sick and twisted about it. They're using the Old Testament and the New Testament and the Talmud, and they're using the Torah because they want to make sure that they've covered all the bases to create this apocalypse. So that's how they can get enough useful idiots to jump in on the program, because you can't do this by yourself. You got to get a bunch of idiots to help people who have the skills and the wherewithal and the scientific knowledge and get them jumping in on this. A bunch of nerds who have had a really experience and they think they're going to be safe because they're like, joining in with the guys who are running this program. The CEO. Until they later will find out the CEO had no interest in any of them surviving and just wanted to make sure that they had their own little fiefdom, because that's what they really want. They just want their own baronies and not have to deal with anybody. And because the rest of the whole population is just gone. Yeah. But see, that's the thing. It's going to be just enough to kill that amount of population. And where is most of that population? Where is most of the population of the world? It's pretty easy. I gave you the answer. Write the answer right down. Right now. And again, like and subscribe. And most importantly, go over to my Substack if you like what I'm talking about. A cup of coffee once a week. If you really enjoy what I'm talking about and it's actually getting you to think. Remember, this is about critical thinking. I'm not here to give you all these answers. That's the problem with all this other stuff. They give you answers and you go, oh, well, I listened to them. That's kind of cool. And then you go on with your way. No, I'm trying to get you to say, oh, crap. This is what's coming? What have I not done to make sure that I can get through this? Or if you think you cannot do anything, that's fine. Just set yourself at peace. I mean, if you know you're going to go, why don't you go in peace? That's the old saying, right? Go in peace. If I go, I'll be at peace when it happens, but until that time, just because of who I am as a person, how I fight, I will not go like a sheep. Ever. And I hope I get that across to you and you accept that and understand that and you are thinking. Because these people are predators. They use people. They have used people. They use their own people. Who do you think sent all the Jews to the concentration camps? It was the Zionists who didn't go down to Israel. The ones who stayed in Germany. The Zionists who joined the Nazi army. Yeah. They don't talk about that, do they? No. They always talk about how they're just a unified people. The chosen, right? Don't believe the propaganda. Look at what is happening. Pay attention. Look at common threads that are happening. You notice that there's a common thread with the environment, the weather, the politics. They've controlled our presidency 100% since the assassinated Kennedy. They've had major control over this country since they killed Lincoln. And since they created the Federal Reserve, they've had total beginning of enslavement of the American people. That's why I told you, what is an employee? An employee is just another slave. There were not employees. Employees were a very small amount of people in this country up until the Federal Reserve. Before that, there were more business owners. If you are a business owner, and whether that's making production or whatever, small or big, a blacksmith is a business owner. He created his own product and he sold it to the populace. But you can't control people when they're all fractionated around the country. That's why they've been consolidating everything. That's why they're going to do the next step, which if you've listened to Catherine Otts Fitz, all of our money has been spent on creating these underground cities where all these little scumbags are freaking running to right now. What? Yeah, they think they're going to survive this thing in the United States underground. Like that's going to separate them from everybody else. Yeah, it might. They're going to come out looking like freaking white aliens. Yeah, like the great people. Oh, maybe that's where the origins are. But like in 1984, remember? There were the people living in the city, and then there were all the people living in the hinterland. But see, they had to deal with the people in the hinterland because we were growing food that they needed to be able to survive and continue to live in the city. What have I been saying? Get out of the city. Get out of the city. There are varying degrees of survivability. The worst place that you're going to be able to survive what's coming is in the city. Okay? The next best of surviving this is in the suburbs, because at least you have a little bit of earth. The next best after that is to be in a full rural setting. The next best after that is to be at least 2 hours driving away from the last gas station from a major metropolitan area. Go look on a map. Use maps. I don't just use it for my bush flying and seaplane flying. I use it when I make plans. I look at maps all the time. I like to see where all the fighting is. See where there could be potential fighting. You're going to see the Middle East ramp up even further. You're going to see that people who thought we were their allies, all the Sunnis, all they want to do is make money. The Shia, they're like the Israelis. Think about that. Who's having, like attracts like, right? The nuts, the Zionists, they get fighting the Shia under the Ayatollah, right? Because they're both a bunch of fucking psychos. The Shia just want to make money. They create Dubai, yeah? Until they get their ass handed to them. And like I said in my last episode, I was vindicated. I was telling clients, do not set your bug out area as Dubai. Because I knew it was going to get hit. Anybody who could pay attention knew if I wanted to take out the Middle East and cause major strife, take out anything along that area. So, you've got the GCC, all the Gulf coastal countries. Those places, they're going to get hammered more. Because the whole idea is to just cut off fuel lines. Iran, up until they get nuked, is going to be fine. We send in troops into there, we're going to have a bunch of dead Marines. And that's what pisses me off. And the reason this is happening is because Trump doesn't want anybody to look in the files. Because he doesn't want his cult. I voted for Trump, but I never considered myself ever MAGA. Make America great again? Think about it. Make America great again. In our lifetime, America has always been under control of the very people who have been leading us down this road. And we've benefited. I mean, shoot. We've got cars that you could never imagine of owning. You probably have wealth that you couldn't even think. But what is wealth? One of my later talks this week, we will go deep into what money is. You'll start to realize what money is and how to really understand what wealth will be in the future. So all you people who've been freaking acting like little squirrels with your nuts, because you're nuts, thinking because you got like $1 million in the bank and you got a little bit of gold, and you got a little bit of silver. You might make it, you might not. Talk about real wealth. How do you talk about real wealth when, you can't get on your private jet and fly somewhere because the airspace has been locked up? Now, if you've got enough money, which means you're in a wealth echelon that doesn't even care about money anymore. See, because most of the people that I see talking about money, like the millionaires and even the billionaires, like from Warren Buffett down. Yeah. So I look at it as the Warren Buffett down, or the George Soros down. From those in that group, you don't have enough money. You're not part of the club, as George Carlin used to say. Remember, there's a club and you ain't in it? Yeah, we ain't in it. But you know what? Sometimes it's good not to be on the radar. My question is, after this happens, how are we going to recognize all these people who were in the club and hunt them down and make sure that they don't do this again? Because if you study the work by Graham Hancock And you've seen him interviewed on Joe Rogan, and then you've seen his shows that he's had. And he's talked about all these different civilizations that have been destroyed. Do you not start to think that maybe this civilization we're in now is actually going to be another one, that another 3 or 4 millennia from now, they'll be looking back and going, oh my God, I wonder what these people were doing. What kind of technology did they have? Yeah. Think about that. And think about what was the root seed, what was the root stock that enabled evolution to come out of that previous civilization to repopulate the planet. And all these people who are going to hide out, if they haven't already made their plans and are already down there hiding out while things are happening right now, while you're seeing the insanity of what's happening, because it's just totally insane. That's the only way you can get your head around this insanity, is because it is in order to bring about the full apocalypse, but just enough that you take out the 90% of the population. Where's the largest population? It's between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn. If you didn't answer it already, down below. But I'm being. So if you're south of those and north of those, but actually for the northern hemisphere, it's going to be a little bit higher because of where the explosions are going to be, but it's still going to whip around. Remember, it's going to whip around because it's over in the Middle East. So, this is not a happy episode. I hope you folks are going to make it. What can you do? And no, you can't be living down in a bunker eating freaking MREs. What's going to happen is, you're probably going to have diverticulitis like me, and that will suck. Because you won't have any fresh food to eat, to process. Remember I told you about MREs and all that kind of stuff? All that preserved food? It's not good for you. You eat the preserved food to get to spring and summer and fall so that you can plant again. And you do the right way, which is like you make sauerkraut and you make kimchi. Those are the healthy ones because those will get you through and actually take care of your gut. But most of the stuff that we have now doesn't do that. It's all designed to kill you. Even the stuff that saves all safe, it's bullshit. It's just to make money off you. Canadian prepper, he's making money off you. I knew that right when I was looking at his land. I go, you are out of your freaking mind. And then the other guy who's got his home on top of a mountain. When you've got survivalists and preppers teaching you, they're both in Canada, which is hilarious, teaching you how to survive things, but their actions do not represent the words that they're saying. For instance, the guy, rest in peace, he lost his wife just a few months ago, or a couple years ago, I think it was, and he just now came out and said, well, this is what I'm dealing with. But dude, your premise is wrong. You're on top of a mountainside. What you've done is basically you got your little Swiss mountain chalet hideaway. That's what that is. That's not the way you survive something that's coming like this. The way you survive that is by being where the people who have to go through heavy winters, like in Switzerland, they don't live on the mountainside. They live in the valley. Remember, that's why I've been telling you, find your last valley. Again, you need to find your last valley. A valley is going to be an oasis in all the freaking desert and horrible hinterland that's going to surround this oasis. You will not be able to leave this place for about 10 to 20 years. You need to find a place like that. If you can't find a place like that, you're screwed. You might be able to find some still within North America. You won't find it in Europe. Europe is going to be in wars. And that's because of how the Zionists and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers and the Carnegies brought all these people up from Africa. They did that to create the Christian-Muslim war. Remember? This is the prophecy. That's why they did that. It wasn't about saving people who were in refugee status coming up from North Africa. It was in order to bring the population closer so that the Christian conflicts could finally just hit each other and sacrifice a few Jews. They don't care. They don't care. So you got to get tough. The reason we're here is because we've had such good times. That old saying, hard times make strong men make good times bring hard times. Make soft men, and those soft men bring hard times. And guess who brought this now? Bill Gates. Epstein. Shoot, Epstein couldn't fight his way out of a paper bag. Weak people. These are weak people. All the IDF. What's up with the IDF when they get somebody who actually wants to fucking take them on? Ooh, they're all running. Didn't I tell you that? I told you. They're all full of shit. All they know how to do is kill little old people, children, and women, and assassinate people they go and find sleeping in their beds. That's what they do. That's why they're well known for using the 22. Yeah. 22 is actually is a perfect assassin's weapon. They're the ones who specialize in the 22 long rifle with a suppressor. You're now going to be challenged to be strong men and women because the times are going to be very hard. Now you can sit back and not believe this and be a denier like all the sheeple who think the government's going to somehow come and save it. Like, remember Jimmy Dore, who couldn't believe it. And you could just see oh my God, after he was talking to Professor John, which at this moment right now, I'm still wondering whether he's a CCP agent, an asset, because it actually paints China in a better light. But they're screwed too. That's why they're kind of like trying to play both sides right now. Did I tell you that when I lived in Asia, that the Asians call the Chinese the Jews of Asia? You know why they call that? It's because they're always moving, they're always traveling, they're always nomadic, and they're always doing the business in each of the countries. You want to go get a good deal, make friends with the Chinese. I always did. Think about what I'm telling you. It is no longer just theory. You are seeing the events play out. As you watch these events play out, you're now in a position to look at what's really happening through a critical thinking mind. Your critically thinking mind is going to get you through this. Because you're looking at things that the emotional mind cannot handle. The emotional mind will lose its mind. Just like Catherine Casey did when she found out that all the endowments were created not to better the American people. It was actually to set us up, to turn us into a collective, to take us away from our individual ability to think clearly, to come together as Americans, but still have our own personal identity of who we are, as compared to this collective, which is like, oh, we got to kumbaya together under this socialist, and now we got to go and save the other people. That's how they set this up. So we get sucked up into these fucked up wars that benefit nobody but the central bankers, the globalist bankers. That's what all these wars are about. And they're about destroying countries and destroying nations. See, before they were just bankrolling these monarchs for their wars. But then the Rothschilds, that's when it flipped. And I told you that in the last episode. That's when they flipped, and that's when they became just psychotics. And as they interbreed with each other, cousin with cousin, first cousins, uncles with first nieces. Yeah, look at the family line in the Rothschilds. What do you think that does? Same thing it was doing to the Egyptians before, right? Get squared away. I told you, get freaking squared away with the freaking fire sticks. You're going to need them. Just to defend your own belongings. And your own body. The hard men made it so good for us. And we squandered it. And we let a bunch of idiots, a bunch of softies like Elon Musk and Peter Thiel. These are pussies. I could freaking just cut one of these down in fucking a few seconds. And I'm an old man. Think about that. I get pissed off at this, to think that all this stuff is just like, we had a constitution, and it's been just used against us. Using patriotism by creating the 9/11, by creating Pearl Harbor, by creating the assassination of Prince Ferdinand, Archduke Ferdinand. Do you know it wasn't just one assassin? There was actually a number, it was a team that went to go and assassinate Archduke Ferdinand. And that's what got the ball rolling with World War I. It wasn't just one guy. See, but that's the history that everybody's taught. No, it was a full-on element that went in there to try and kill him. And all the stuff with the Bolsheviks. How did that get going? Where the Tsar actually gave the government to the people so the socialists could come in. Oh, like the socialists we have now. And then once the socialists fucked up everything and you have the total chaos, then the Rothschilds can send in the Bolsheviks. And then the Bolsheviks take over and everything's cool and groovy for about 10 years and they have free love in the streets. Yeah, read about that. The free love of the Soviet Union. Until it's, oh, we got to stop that now. And then suddenly it goes into the Iron Gate. And they have total control. And you can't get out of it because you turn in your guns. Everybody's terrified to do anything because everybody who did before. Remember I told you about Trotsky and his train? He went all across. Yeah. Oh, and by the way, if you ever study the stuff with Catherine Austin Fitz, look at the stuff she's got. About that money, all that money, how many trillions was spent to create that whole community. And it's all connected by these underground trains. And how China has that. That same train that would have been built in the United States without anybody in the United States knowing this. I totally get this. It's publicly known in China, in Japan, where they have the rail in Japan. What does it get up to? Like 300 miles an hour, 400 miles? Yeah, 300 miles an hour, 400 miles an hour. The one in China gets up to that speed and goes underground for quite a few miles. But here's this connectivity. Pay for it with our tax dollars. That's why I've been telling you, go visit Agent for Truth. This is the only way, is to freaking hit him where it hurts. There is no law that says you have to pay federal income tax. Don't take my word for it. Go and study it. It's a voluntary act. Agentfortruth.com. www.agentfortruth.com. On that note, please like, subscribe, help your friends, get them squared away. Send them to go watch my prior episodes. If you haven't seen my prior episodes, you should go and watch them. Because there's a lot of good stuff in there. We talk about this, but now I'm getting heavy with it because we don't have that much time. Well, I do because I planned. Remember 2008? I saw what was happening when I was living in San Francisco. I'd love to be living back in San Francisco. Shoot! What a beautiful place. Golden Gate Bridge. Yeah, what's going to happen when there's a nuke in San Francisco? All right? Well, on that note, God bless. Watch your six. It's going to get hairy pretty soon. Go over to my Substack. If you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe for free. If you happen to feel that you'd like to treat me to a cup of coffee, that's what it's about. What, $9 a month for a cup of coffee? Oh, because that's what they pay me, the big bucks, to share this information with. Whew. Get scored away. I'm 12 years at this, actively. Since 2008, trying to decide where I'm going to go, what I was going to do. 2008, I was going to go to Montana. Thank God I'm not in Montana. Because that's where all the other Californians went to. And now you can't get up to that. I mean, any land that you could find in Alaska, you'd have to buy it from somebody who's suicidal to want to sell it to you because they're going to use the money to move to Australia or New Zealand or South America. I wouldn't go to South America. Like I said, that is going to be the new Israel, which means every single country that's going to be Uruguay, Paraguay, freaking Chile, Peru, all those surrounding countries are going to have major terrorist actions going into that area just to destabilize the region. Remember what I told you? That's the reason they're destroying the United States, so that we can't come down there following the Monroe Doctrine in order to fucking kick them out of there. Because Americans will have woken up by then to realize we've been used to create the lie of Israel so that they could create all the mess that's there to hasten us towards the apocalypse, so their Antichrist can come. Yeah. Whatever the Zionists bring for Baal is going to be an Antichrist. It's not going to be the Messiah. It's not going to be the Messiah that the true believing Jews believe it's going to be. It's going to be the freaking God of Baal. It's going to be Baal in the human form. B-A-L, B-A-A-B-A-A-L, Baal. Yeah, Satan. These are fucked up people. Psychos! And I know, you can't believe it. Because you're probably a good person. You can't believe somebody would stoop to this level of depravity in order to achieve this insanity, this insane goal. Because remember, they're not waiting for God to bring it to them. Because that's what a normal person would say, who say, well, hopefully, if and when the apocalypse comes, I'll be saved and everybody who's a true believer. Okay, I get that. But see, the Zionists and the Judeo-Christians and the Christian Zionists, these people are bringing it about. And that's why they're insane. So, enough of that. God bless. Again, absolutely watch your six. More and more people are going to get the drift of this. And they're going to be losing it. Because they're going to think, why was I working all these times, all these years in this profession, in this career, that I'm going to be turned into a piece of dust? Or worse. See, because if I'm in an area where there's going to be nuclear war or fallout, I prefer to be at ground zero. Because then you won't have to think about anything. But since I'm in Alaska, there ain't going to be no ground zero up here. That's not the plan. The plan is the majority of the population. Remember, the majority of the population is between the Tropic of Cancer and north to the Tropic of... from the Tropic of Cancer down to the Tropic of Capricorn. You don't want to be in those places. So look on the map. Where do you want to be? And if you're going to remain in those areas, do what you can. What are the things that you're going to have to do? We're well trained up here in Alaska with winter. Those of us who have spent more than 2 or 3 years. I'm just waiting for the people who've been here 1 or 2 years saying, oh, crap, we can't take this. That used to be the rule. You wouldn't get offered jobs unless you stayed through one winter. Shoot, it was really, when I first lived here, back in 90, when I came back from the war in Central America, I was looking for jobs like crazy. I couldn't get any jobs. Boom. The next year, I was getting jobs offered to me from everybody I knew. It was wild. Great jobs. Fish counting. Shoot, if you just want to kick back and relax, just go up creek with a fish counter for fishing game. And you make good money back then. Get squared away. We'll talk later.